Good morning. I am Brennan Malloy and the co-owner of the House of Compassionate Gratitude, if I can remember my own business name. And I'm here this morning to talk to you about what to do after you've written your will. So the title of today's conversation is about now what? So we wrote a book a few years ago called The Process of Passing, and it is kind of a doula's guide, a death coach guide to your end of life planning. And I'm going to reference it a few times, so when I kind of hold up a book, you'll know what that is. I'll put the link to the book and that website and stuff in the comments. Speaking of comments, if you comment this morning, because I am working by my mobile phone because my laptop doesn't like me today, if you do comment there, I will get back to you just as soon as possible. You're also welcome to email or text me or private message me if it's something a little more personal. So the first thing I want to do is congratulate you on completing your will. If you saw a lawyer, if you did it online, if you did it in a notebook, congratulations, you completed something to do with your end of life planning, and that's going to make the job for your family and friends and loved ones so much easier. So thank you for doing that on behalf of all of them. But today what we're going to talk about is what to do after that. Okay, so we're going to talk about what is likely not in your will. And if it is, you have a great lawyer, good for you. Speaking of lawyers, I'm not one. I am an end-of-life coach. Death doula is another word for it, a grief walker. In our book, we refer to it as Life Bridge Aids because we bridge the gap from life to the hereafter. So any of those terms, that's my job. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a financial professional. So if you have questions that veer that way, I recommend that you talk to a good one. And if you don't know one, again, reach out. Maybe I might have the resources to help you find that. So we're going to talk about what's likely not in your will, and then what to do about said information, how to gather it, and what to do with it. And when I say what to do with it, what I'm alluding to is the family meeting, or the loved ones meeting, or whatever that is, the caregiver meeting, because that's a big piece of it. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Get your little box of tissues, because that usually comes up either for you or when you talk to them, right? So, to my will. I had a great lawyer when I did my will 6 years ago. So it's about time for me to have it revisited because I've had a life event. My daughter will be going off to college. That sometimes makes me need tissues too. But life events are a good time to review what's in your will. And I'm saying that in regards to my daughter graduating and becoming an adult because her guardianship information is included in my will. And if you have children and your guardianship information is not legal in your will, in your plan, go back to your lawyer, get that done. Your children deserve that safety net. Okay, so that's something that's not in there that we won't cover today because it's a whole big legal loopy mess that I'm not qualified to really talk about other than to say get it done and do that with a professional, probably not just online, okay? Although Susie Orman does have a really good version. I don't work for her. I don't get commission to say that. I've just looked at her stuff and it's pretty decent, in my opinion. So what my lawyer did give me when I filled out my will, it is this piece of paper, and it says a statement or list pursuant to Virginia Code blah, 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 the disposition of tangible personal property not otherwise specifically disposed of by the will. So what the will covers is my legal and financial responsibilities, right? It's my assets, essentially. Who's responsible for my assets? Who gets the assets after all of the obligations are paid? That's in the will. Who gets the house, the car, the money, the life insurance, that kind of stuff. The other piece that's usually not included in there, other than pointing out who your executor is of your estate and who's going to do some of that planning with you, is what to do with your body, right? Some states in their medical power of attorney paperwork will talk about cremation, burial, who makes those decisions. If your power of attorney can do that, or if it falls to whoever manages your estate or your next of kin in your family. Read your will, find out if it's in there. If it's not in there, it needs to be somewhere, okay? Because your will is not, it is not your final day wishes, and it is not your death care plan, okay? It is the legally binding document on what to do with your stuff. Okay, what to do with your stuff and your responsibilities and your resources. It is not your death care plan. It is not. If you have a will that has your death care plan included in it, please send me the name of your lawyer, right? Or whoever made that legally tangible, because I have not seen a will that has a death care plan. And when I say death care plan, I mean what to do with you leading up to when you actually pass. Where will you be? Who will be taking care of you? What kind of care you want? Yes, the medical stuff, I hear you. The medical stuff is often included in that. But your favorite jammies is probably not included in that. You want lavender in your diffuser. You don't want people touching you. You do want people to hold your hand and give you a massage and touch you. That's not going to be in your will. If it is, again, please correct me. Please send me the name of who wrote it up for you. Okay? Because I think it'd be great to have that resource, but it is typically not included in there. So your final wishes for your final day, when I talk about that piece of it, in our workbook, it's page 17 of the original edition of The Process of Passing, and it talks about what clothes do you want, who do you want to be with you, is there music you want playing, are there flowers you want around you, all of those things to make your transition from life to death more comfortable and in line with your values. Again, that's not typically in the will, so it's part of the now what. It's the other stuff. Frankly, to me, it's the harder stuff because it's the hard stuff. And it's the stuff that we need, again, box of tissues for, good cup of tea, something like that, a good friend to hold your hand. Will you personally walk through it and talk about it? If you don't have somebody to walk through and talk about it to, there's lots and lots of doulas out there, including myself, that would be happy to have that conversation with you. But what do you want your quality of life to be in those final days? Is typically, I'll use the word typically not in your will. So it's part of the now what, okay? The other thing that is typically not part of any of those legal things is what to do for your service. Again, there are some medical power of attorney paperwork out there, whether it's done through a lawyer or done through a state, that do talk about cremation, burial, and who has the right to make those decisions. That's great. That's a huge step in the right direction. But it's not always there. Right? It's not always there if you want. Sorry about that. So it's also not typically in there what you want to be wearing, how you want to be dressed if you want people to see you, what pictures to put out. That's part of the now what. Okay? Part of the now what is who's coming to my service, who's doing my eulogy, who's speaking. If you are part of a faith practice, you may have a faith leader that you already know and have a relationship with that you want to do that stuff, and that's great, but it's still a good conversation to have. It may be somebody who's been retired, right? Maybe you had a pastor or a leader in your faith that no longer practices publicly on a daily basis, but they would be available to come and do your service. Again, those are things to talk about. Those are things to know. And backing up a smidge, those are things to talk about when you're not sick and dying, okay? Because I'm not sick and dying. But if the last 18 months have taught us anything, is there's a reality to the fact that we don't always know when we're going to go. In fact, we don't tend to know when we're going to go. Maybe we just don't. That's one of those mysteries of life. Do a lot of intuitive work. Don't do death dates. Don't work with an intuitive who's going to give you a death date either, because that's probably not professional. So we're going to talk about those things. We're going to write them down somewhere, either, again, in this lovely workbook, self-promotion, or in a little notebook, right? That's okay to do. Get a notebook, write it down. What are your wishes? What are your wants? Revisit it. You know, you have a big epiphany. You watch a movie where there's a lovely service. You see somebody who has a really good quality of hospice care, or they work with a doula or something like that, and you're inspired. Go change what you wrote down. It's just ink and paper. Change it. It's fine. I actually had a conversation with my mother the other day. Sorry, Mom. You get to be my inspiration for the conversation. And I said, well, what are your plans? And specifically, I was talking about life support kind of stuff. Like, have they changed any? We had a family event, and I thought maybe I should check in, make sure her thoughts hadn't changed any. And she went right to the funeral, right to the burial. She said, I don't want to be burnt and I don't want bugs in me. And I'm not sure how else to dispose of the physical remains without those two options. But I thought of something, Mom, if you watch this, maybe we can have you mummified. I'm not really sure how to do that, but maybe we can do that for you. So I'll follow up with you later if you didn't watch this, because it was a thought that came to me this morning. But those are the conversations, okay? If you feel strongly about them, or frankly, even if you don't feel strongly and you just maybe have a preference or you don't care, you can tell your family, I don't care. Bury me, cremate me, put me in an urn, put me in a coffee can, spread me somewhere. You can tell them that you don't mind what they do, but you need to tell them, right? They need that. That's the thing. When it comes to this stuff, if we have not laid out the roadmap for our family, they will overthink it. They will agonize. They might argue. They will cry. They are emotional. They are missing you. They are in a place of love, and they may not know what to do. And they may think, I know what to do. And then somebody else says, no, I know what to do. And if they're not the same what to do, then they don't know what to do. And it will stay with them. It will stay with them. Again, I do spiritual work. I do mediumship. The number of people who have come to me and said, did I do the right thing, is astounding. I would say a good 45% of the medium conversations I've had have included, did I do the right thing in regards to the funeral and those final days? Are they okay that we went to the hospital and didn't stay at home? Because it wasn't written. There was a conversation 15 years ago about it. And now your family members left questioning their decisions that they made in a state of grief, or maybe panic or fear or under pressure. So have the conversation. That's the thing. Have the conversation. I was going to say this to the end, but this is a live video and we can jump around, right? It is a family meeting. We have a horrible time in this country. I don't know about other countries, but I'm going to speak from my perspective as a doula and as an American, that we have a horrible, horrible time having tough conversations. They come out quick and harsh and in the moment sometimes, and not well planned, if at all. Okay, we do it about a lot of things, but we definitely do it about death care and end of life planning. So to plan that, okay? Have a little gathering. Maybe not a dinner, maybe do it as a brunch, right? Maybe make it a little less formal. Maybe make it formal. Maybe have everybody over, make it turkey, and talk about it. But plan the time. You can divide the family up if you want, though I prefer and recommend that you bring everybody together, because then everybody has the conversation and can hear all the same words at the same time. But have the conversation. Get a few boxes of tissues if you need to. Make a pot of coffee, tea, whatever it is that your family is gonna have a better time sitting there with, and let them know ahead of time. I need you to come to dinner. I've been doing some planning. I'm not sick, I'm not dying, I'm not going anywhere, whatever that language has to be. Or maybe you are. Maybe you had a conversation and you have a diagnosis that now you need to discuss, whatever that is. Make sure you communicate to them that this is not a conversation about negativity, okay? We go there, oh my gosh, they're talking about dying, they're being negative. It is not a negative statement to talk about death and dying. It does not make you a negative person to do your planning. It doesn't mean you're wishing, hoping, planning, plotting, you're not suicidal. None of those things are automatically true just because you want to talk about these plans. They make you a responsible, engaged adult, and good for you. Because that's what adults do. Adults take tough conversations and they plan to have them, and then they have them, and it makes life easier. That's adulting 101. That's what we do. We make intentional decisions and we communicate them. So they may not like it. They may not like having this conversation, but if they love you, they will at least hear you, okay? And you can say that. I'm sorry, but you can say that. You are my next of kin. You're my child, my partner. I love you, and I need to know that you know what my wishes are in regards to this. It can be a 5-minute conversation. I've got some bullet points. I wrote it down for you. Done. There you go. Are you comfortable doing this? Is the next question. Are you comfortable following these plans? Because if they're uncomfortable having the conversation, they may be uncomfortable following the plans. Maybe. And you need to know. Because if you're counting on someone to follow your plans, your written directions, and they're not comfortable with it, they don't believe in them, you have different value system, you might need somebody else. Maybe that person can still respect your wishes. I've seen it. They absolutely can. But you need the peace of mind. You deserve the peace of mind to know that the person you appoint to do these things and that you ask to do them can do them, okay? That they know where the pink fuzzy pajamas are in the back of the closet that are just the best because you cut the feet out of them. I don't know. They need to know where these things are. They need to know what they're doing with them. That's what it is. And again, it's not an old person, sick person conversation. This is healthy adulting. Okay, very basic. I will be 40 in about 7 months. My daughter knows I want to be at home. She knows that I don't want a lot of artificial things. I'm not in the mindset of artificial hydration or nutrition. I don't intend to have a tracheotomy done. I don't have a DNR written. That may come at some point in the future. But those other life extending things, they're not on my bucket. They're not things that I plan on having done. I used to really not be interested in cremation for myself, and that's changed. That's changed a bit in the last couple of years. I see the value of it for our family and the planet. So she knows those basics. We didn't sit down and pick out the socks yet. I mean, not that far into my planning of it, but we know the basics. She knows don't put vanilla anywhere near me. Don't make eggs probably in the house when I don't feel good. I don't like making eggs. I think they smell bad then. So these are things that she knows. It's a general conversation. She knows where my comfort level is, okay? She knows who I would want to be called immediately and who can get called in 4 or 5 hours or tomorrow, right? She knows who I would be like, yep, bring them to the house, bring them to the hospital, and who can come to the service. She knows those basic things because we have open dialogue. It's not negative. It's not meant to be scary. It's about planning. It's about planning for your quality of care, your quality of death, and also to bring peace of mind and comfort to your family as they navigate that from a state of grief. Okay, a state of grief is a hard place to make decisions from, so having it planned out makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's the conversation. You can also engage somebody like a doula as like intermediary, right? Somebody to navigate the conversation with you, somebody to mediate the conversation. If you feel like your family is going to have a really hard time, you can invite your friend to do it. There's also some games out there that help you have these conversations. If you're into the fun game thing, there's some card games and this and that with end of life questions to break the ice. That could be good for you too. But okay, back to the stuff part of it, okay? So we are now having our family meeting. We've communicated some basics, cremation, burial, the plot is paid for and it's, at St. Mary's. That's done. Maybe we've communicated, call this one, call that one. Please don't let that one in my hospital room because they're wailing. We've communicated those things to our family. Then the next thing, we'll go back to the stuff, okay? Because we've all got lots of stuff. And if you don't know somebody super personally or for a really long time, you might not know what all of the stuff is, okay? So I have some examples of the stuff from my family. My will does not say what to do with a photo album, and this one in particular, okay? This is from before my father passed. My aunt put this book together shortly after he passed away. They're all the photos from my early childhood. My daughter may want this. If she doesn't, it will go to one of my nieces or my brother, or back to my aunt who created it if I predecease her. So that's something that's known in our home, generally speaking, of the plan for this. But maybe your child's 4 and not 18, and you're not going to have that conversation with a 4-year-old, right? Maybe you're single and you don't have a partner to communicate it with either. So you're going to write it down somewhere, right? My end of life plan notebook, my process of passing workbook, the worksheet included in your will that your lawyer hopefully gave you, or that you printed out off the internet. Put it there. Photo album of early childhood, black with gold trim. This should go to so-and-so. Get it done. Okay, put it all together. I have some things a little older. I have letters. My grandparents wrote each other when they were dating. This, my Nana has entrusted for me to take care of, and it's not for the video live as to what to do with it afterwards. I don't think she'd be appreciative of that. However, I have the plan, and she has the plan, and we have the plan together as to what to do with these things. And that's really important to our family and to her heart, that she knows where these letters are, okay? So there we go. And then, let's see what else. So then we have the will itself, right? The will itself is in a cute little envelope and has my lawyer's name and my name on the top of it, and it says estate planning documents. And I'm gonna put that together with my notebook and my list of stuff, and I'm gonna talk to the family about it, and I'm gonna say, so my wedding gown, you know, or my pretty ring from when you were 6 months old. And this is what I want to happen with them. How do you feel about that? I'm gonna ask the question. Ultimately, it's my decision, it's my stuff, right? But I'm gonna say, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about this going to, you know, your uncle? How do you feel about the photo album going back to your uncle instead of to you? And my daughter will probably be like, I don't care, Mom. Can I keep a couple pictures, make some copies? Okay, sure. That's great. You can do that. But there might be a few items that aren't as easily decided, right? You've got 3 kids and 1 wedding ring. That's hard. What are you gonna do? You can't cut that thing up. You've got to have the family discussion. And it's gonna be uncomfortable, and you're probably gonna use tissues, and somebody might yell. But you know what? I would rather they yelled with you sitting there at the table having the honest dialogue versus in the funeral home, right? Or in the bank lobby, or at the cemetery, or in your kitchen while you're in the bedroom in your final hours or days of life, right? You don't want those things. No, bring them all together. Let them knock it down, drag it out, right there with you, where you could say, hey, guess what? It's my wedding ring. I want it buried with me. That's what's happening with my wedding ring. You're gonna bury it with me. You're gonna put it in my urn. And end of discussion. You're gonna go sell it at the pawn shop down the street, split the money, and go out to lunch. It could be any of those things, but it's the conversation. That's the now what. You did your will. Congratulations. I'm so glad that you did it. You downloaded something. You went to a lawyer, whatever. You took out a notebook. There's conversations about how legally binding it is if you write your will in your notebook, but that's between you and your lawyer and the court system afterwards. However, whatever you did to get it done, I'm proud of you for getting it done. Now let people know that you did it. Let them know what's included in it, and let them know what's not included in it that's still important to you. And if you say that none of this is important to you, you're probably not watching this video. You probably finished already. But if you made it this far, then you understand that although it may not be important to you, what happens with this necklace, right? This is just some little costume thing. I don't care what happens to it. But it might be important to somebody else. Okay, there might be a memory attached to it. Maybe your child gave it to you in 3rd grade as a birthday gift. It's still costume jewelry, no monetary value, but important sentimental value, and it may be important to them. But you need the dialogue. You need the conversation. And I've been using my family a lot as an example of this because that's my safe place. But one of my favorite sitcoms was the Tim Allen's Home Improvement. And I don't get paid for that, but I loved the episode and I watched the show. So anyway, his wife, Jill's mother, was doing this planning. And it's been a while since I saw it, but something happened, like she was doing the planning and she said, your sister gets the clock and you get the tea set. And this woman, the entire 30-minute episode was her agonizing over how to tell her mother she wanted the clock. And why did her mother not know that she wanted the clock? And it was like in the final 5 minutes, she said, Mom, I wanted the clock because we moved a lot when we were kids. And when I heard the clock, I knew I was home. And that just makes me a little emotional hearing it, right? Like it's going to bring up tears to have these conversations. But Joe finally told her mom, I want the clock. And why I want the clock? And Mom said, oh. And she said, why did you not know that I wanted the clock, Mom? Mom said, because I thought you wanted the tea set. Because when you were a little kid, we would have tea and crumpets, which were really, I think, English muffins. It was something silly. It wasn't crumpets, but it made me laugh when I watched it. So then she's like, well, now I want them both. And of course, it ended with her saying, you have to share with your sister. And I loved that episode because it goes to the meat of it. Have the conversation. If you're sitting there with a loved one and they say, so, Susie gets the tea set and Jimmy gets the painting of Great Uncle Albert, and that's not what you thought you were gonna get out of this. It's not the heirloom. I don't mean get out of it like it's a monetary gain, right? But if you thought the family heirloom that was coming home with you was the silver, not the checkerboard, have the conversation. Mom, what is the significance of that to you? Like, how did you come to that decision? Dad, what, we used to play checkers all the time. Where did how did you come to this conclusion? You can ask those questions, and you can ask them without being, disrespectful or a jerk about it. It's conversation. Families, please converse. Please converse. Okay? And I keep using the word family, and I want to clarify that I mean it synonymously with dear loved ones, friends, family, loved ones, however that is, okay? Those people that are close to you. Now, for those of you who don't have that network where your stuff will be going to those people, this is still a valuable process, okay? Because donating, selling the stuff at an auction house so the money goes to a charity that you're involved with or that you value, all of that is still a valid thing to do with all your stuff, but nobody's gonna know it if you don't tell them. That's the thing. Nobody's gonna know for 100% sure if you don't tell them, so tell them. Tell them kindly, tell them compassionately, put it in writing, do a little video and record it. Dear family, these are my wishes. That's fine too. Record the whole conversation. Set the camera or the laptop up at the end of the kitchen counter and record the whole thing so they can see how silly they are later. And they can see how the conversation went. And there's no arguments. It's right there, live in color. You said you wanted the tea set. But the biggest thing I want you to get out of today is to have the conversation. I talk in circles. It's what I do. I do it pretty well. And if you need help having the conversation, please come back to me. Follow me on Facebook, on YouTube. I'm starting a TikTok. I'm not really sure what I'm doing with it yet, but that'll be out there sometime. Give me a call. Send an email, send a text message, a direct message, whatever those are. We can dig into your personal dynamics. If you have family that's not going to respect this conversation, that's a bigger conversation, but at least get it written down or recorded so it's out there for them. I understand that. I respect that. Not all families have the dynamic of having a family meeting. Or maybe it'll be a big ruckus if you do. But that's kind of like the sidebar, like let's have that conversation over here. And these instructions are about you. These instructions are about what your wishes are and people upholding and respecting them. And if they're not going to be upheld and respected, again, that's a whole other dialogue for you to have with a coach, with a doula, with your counselor, with your family, if you don't feel like they're going to respect these wishes, okay? So I'm only addressing that because I do hear it. Oh, my family wouldn't hear that. They don't care. They believe this and I believe that. I get it. There can be pushback, but this is about you, okay? This is all about you. This is a really good time in life for it to be all about you and have a tough conversation that can be made a little easier with proper planning. Write it down, get the workbook, get the little worksheet. This is something you can probably download. Call your lawyer back, do a little planning, then have the conversation and see where it goes, okay? So thank you so much. Our website, my phone number, my email will all be in the comment section for you to follow up later. Thanks for joining me this morning. Have a good day.